Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We extending your omnichannel strategy with integrated concrete delivery. We are so happy to see you on this webinar, and today we will be exploring the challenges and opportunities for pharma companies when it comes to concrete participation. We will focus on maximize ROI and, of course, optimize cost while maintaining impact. We are honored to be joined by two leading experts in the field, and I'm very excited first to introduce Nataliya Andreychuk, co-founder and CEO of Viseven. Nataliya is a leading expert in digital pharma marketing and content implementation. Her experience in technology, marketing, sales has driven the success of Viseven across more than 70 global markets. And we are excited to have her as our expert today. The second expert is also a very special one, Jan van den Burg, CEO of Tangent 90. Jan has a wealth of experience in customer engagement solutions and digital strategy with a background that includes roles from Viva System, PWS Consulting, and IBM Business Consulting. I'm Anna Zolotnicka, the head of PR of V7, and I will be your moderator for this exciting discussion. Let's make this engaging session, and feel free to share your questions in the chat and we go along. Hello, Nataliya. Hello, Jan. I'm very excited to see you.
Hi, I could see you too.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. Great to be with you again, and great to have such a nice company for this webinar.
I'm sure that it will be an amazing webinar. I have no doubts. But as we have our discussion, so I'm just a reminder for audience, please feel free to have all your questions. We will answer all of them because we would have very great Q&A session in the end. But we will start with our first section, and it should be a very interesting one because let's dive right into challenges. So Congress, a crucial part of pharma engagement strategy, but also comes with their own challenges. Jan, my first question is for you, but Nataliya, please feel free to join after. Based on your expertise and especially experience with the customer engagement in life science, what do you see the biggest challenges that pharma companies faced with the Congress?
Thanks, Anna, and hi everyone. Great to be here today. So looking at the challenges, and really I'm focusing some of the main challenges around booth and symposia as key touch points during Congress. So starting off with closing the loop is a big challenge. Secondly, sharing published scientific content and the overall content delivery process. So if I start with the first challenge, and that's really closing the loop, not just with your CRM, but truly making Congress an integral part of your overall HCP engagement strategy and connect it all to all of the other channels that are in use. So identifying HCPs, as you all know, it's a big challenge. Typically, HCPs are scanned in using the Congress organizer's badge registration system. And whereas it sort of worked okay-ish at times, really the challenge is poor data quality. There's a lack of a unique HCP identifier that makes it really difficult to close the loop with CRM. And as a consequence, very often nothing is done with the list of scanned in HCPs. I've talked to many a pharma company, and the response is very typically the same. Oh yes, we scan the HCPs in during the Congress. And when I ask what happens next, we get a list of the HCPs. And when I then ask the question, what happens next? Well, not a lot, really, because it sort of disappears into drawers and the follow-up isn't done because typically the reconciliation is extremely difficult to do. One global pharma company we work with, they indicated that they could only manually reconcile 30% of all the HCPs that they scanned in during all of the congresses they participated in globally. Only reconcile 30% of those HCPs scanned in with their CRM system, which means 70% of HCPs is guaranteed that there will never be a follow-up with those individuals, which of course is a huge missed opportunity. Also, increasingly less data is provided back by Congress organizers. Data privacy is often quoted, or GDPR is often quoted as a reason for doing that. And then on top of that, badge registration systems differ across Congresses. So every time you've got to go through the whole process again to redo any integration and set things up. And sometimes these don't even offer integration. And in most cases, they certainly do not offer real-time integration. Then beyond the booth, when it comes to, for instance, symposia or the poster hall, HCP engagement is important to do, but not with lengthy form filling. What is often seen, particularly if scientific content is shared, that is accompanied by a long form that needs to be filled in to provide the right information. That's exactly what HCPs don't want to do. On the flip side, of course, you as a pharma company do want to see who is engaged with the content, including at symposia, including at the poster hall. So that becomes a real conundrum that needs to be solved for successful engagement. Now, linked to that is linking the HCP to the content engagement, because HCPs aren't identified or only scanned using the badge registration system solution. There's no linking between an identified HCP and the content that they engage with, for instance, on kiosks. And of course, that leads to a lack of insight and follow-up opportunities. Now, without knowing the HCP, it's also difficult to capture the consent based on what you know about the current consent status of the HCP. So obviously, it's very ineffective to try and get consent from an HCP where they've already provided consent. On the flip side, it's very effective to ask for extended consent if you know that the HCP has only provided, for instance, consent for one-to-one email. So it's really critical to know the current consent basis to then ask for an extended consent or the first consent. Now, of course, Congress is a great place to engage with the physician and enter into a dialogue. But as part of that, it's really important to capture any follow-up activities, any tasks that need to be followed up. And of course, without the correctly identified HCP, that's tricky to do. And of course, physicians will be, typically willing to provide any data that is incorrect, such as an updated telephone number or email address. And it's important that those changes are captured there and then processed, because if it's not, it will create a poor customer experience in any of the other channels. After all, physicians expect all channels to be fully connected. Now,
yes, Jan, and I just want to add, and content here becomes one of the most important pieces of this interaction, because it's like a glue or like a bridge where we can actually build and on which we can rely on, because if we cannot really be sure about how we are capturing the consent, so then we need to be sure that this correct consent form is included somewhere into our content and is captured real time. And this is how important to understand that we are not having Congress disconnected absolutely from our content strategy, and we think about all of these things up front, right? Sorry for the interruption.
No, absolutely. It's totally correct. And it links very nicely to the next thing I was going to mention, which is around using advanced content. Of course, we all see the most beautiful 3D creations, video, augmented and mixed reality content being used. Very good from an engagement perspective, tricky from a follow-up perspective, because also there, the challenge really is to incorporate the experience into the booth and the Congress platform to ensure that the engagement is tracked consistently. and insights are combined with overall congress activities to, again, close the loop and enable follow-up and comparison. And often due to the complexity of the experience, time pressure, and standalone development, this is not done. So, and forgive me, Anna, for going on about Congress challenges, because it's really quite a long list, right? Because linked to that is the sharing of published scientific content. Now, we all know that Congress is a great time to share published content. A lot is launched by publishers during Congress, and HCPs really value that type of content. Research has shown that 89% of physicians would likely or very likely change their prescribing behavior based on viewing published scientific content that is peer-reviewed, but in its original form, i.e. as what we call an e-print. But the volume of published scientific content is a challenge. Typically 1.5 million articles a year. How do you get through that? To give you an example, and it's quite a striking one, if you think about a GP, how they would keep up to date with relevant published scientific content, it would take them 29 hours a day. So if you're going to see a GP, best see a GP who's just graduated, because they'll be up to date with the latest scientific content. But that's how difficult it is. And of course, Congress has a defined target audience and provides a great opportunity to provide HCPs with published scientific content that is most relevant to them.
Yeah, and you have and you have to really take care about the format of this content. You have to provide the shareable content, right? Because if the value of the scientifically proved topics are not debatable here, so they must be really, highly valuable. However, whenever you provide it in the form and in the format which is, and you are not taking care about channels, so you are mostly will be also lost in this sharing and follow-up activities after the Congress, right? So that's why providing the shareable format is very important, and this is adding to the richness of the content we have to care about.
Absolutely, and also combining it with short form content. We know it's extremely effective to deliver the e-print, but they're typically 20, 25, 30 pages long, and it's important to accompany that with short form content. And if delivered in conjunction, it delivers on both aspects of impact. But it's tricky to do. It comes with its own challenges, which we won't go into, but are, of course, fully addressable. And that really leads me to the final bit of those first three main challenges, and that's the content delivery. And I'm not the expert here, but I have been at the receiving end of this challenge. So Nataliya, I'll ask you to talk about it, but it's really about getting the content to the kiosk, to the reps for their presentations at the booth done in time. And of course, doing the content development process in a sort of traditional way leads to all sorts of extremely last-minute challenges. And that's really exacerbated by the fact that the content development process is disconnected from the content development process for other channels.
Yeah, exactly. And this is another challenge when we have the congresses in the question of the content is like stand alone, just separated from the other channels. And it is understandable because from one side, it is rather expensive channel where we have a lot of sponsorship, a lot of travel expenses and booth expenses and other preparation expenses. So one of the most expensive channels. So we want to be outstanding. We do not want to be the same actually, but we need to understand that we want to be outstanding, but we need to be also consistent with our content experience. And this consistency across the channel and as well is called like hybrid approach in communication is delivering the real engagement, because only then you will be able to engage your audience before the Congress and follow up and get the result you are expecting to get with the engagement score you're expecting to get. And that's how it is done. Getting consistency and this consistent experience across the channel is not possible without omni-channel approach, and Congress is not an exclusion out of the omni-channel program. I would say omni-channel strategy will help us to integrate the data from every touch point, even the data. Jan just described how we are struggling to have HCP identified, to have the consent gathered, to have the data synchronized, and to have it relevant within the CRM. So this is all the challenge, but once it is done, so we are able to integrate all the touch points, and then from the CRM, CLM, social media, Congress, and web portals, and then we have the seamless experience for HCP for every channel they will use. And then we were talking about shareable content. Then it is possible because we will have this consistency. So that's actually very important.
Thank you so much, guys. I feel that we start in such a hot discussion. I see even in our chat. Guys, just a reminder, please let us know your challenges, how do you deal with them, what's the questions you have for us, because I feel this could be a separate webinar only talking about challenges and our experience, how to deal with this. But I know that everyone thinking about, like, everyone's in mind is ROI. Driving insights on ROI from Congress can be super tricky. I'm sure that our attendees also have this experience, and it could be super tricky for business as well. Jan, I have this question for you. How do you think companies can better measure and drive ROI from the Congress activities? Do you think it's possible? I know that you do, but
absolutely. And of course, we, as before, we're looking at a limited number of aspects of the Congress delivery, but closing the loop is absolutely critical to do. Physicians expect it. It drives a better experience for them, and it allows you to internationally follow up as well. It's quite interesting. Quite often, I hear regional teams organizing a congress, not quite dismissing, but if there are HCPs from other regions they may not directly work with, they're often not that interested. Which, from my perspective, and if you look at closing the loop and driving ROI, it is important to not just close the loop, but do that globally. Every HCP who engages with your team at the booth in the symposium is important. We don't really have local KOLs anymore. We very much have global KOLs and digital influencers. So it's key to do it in that way. On top of that, understanding booth engagement, like you have been looking at other channels for many years, getting more and more insights from those channels. Nataliya, I'm sure you have many examples about what insights are driven from CLM presentations, for instance. The same thing needs to happen within booth engagement. Counting coffee cups, although it's fun to do, it's not the best way to measure.
It's not the KPIs, yes. So really, we have to have them predefined. They do not, coffee cups are not linking to business, right?
No.
So this is what you want to say.
No.
Okay.
And,
yeah.
I'm a big coffee drinker. I would find that the best booth to get my coffee from and keep coming back. So not a good measure of real engagement. But what is measuring footfall against HCP interaction and content engagement. And call to action follow-up and understanding flow. For instance, would you like to know how many people walk up to your kiosk and subsequently engage with the content on the kiosk? That percentage of people who engage will give a key indicator of how well that content is presented and to what extent it really provides a call to action. Linked to that is measuring the update on a call to action that's next to a content item. Imagine you have an infographic or a looping presentation at the booth. wouldn't you like to know how many people looked at that and then subsequently scanned in the QR code next to it to take up on the call to action, which again provides key insights in the power of the content that is being used and the way that it is presented. Next, in terms of understanding ROI, really, and it makes complete, it's common sense, it's comparing across congress. You know, I can count the number of pharma companies on one hand who truly work across all of their congresses to understand what is working well congress to congress. And part of that is due to the nature of pharma and people constantly moving on to a next brand and a next opportunity, which is totally normal and understandable. But it means that the insights from last year's congress is lost. So comparing across congress with a predefined and fixed tagging structure that allows you that you would embed into your content, that allows you to track across, provides great understanding in terms of how well the content did, how well other aspects of the booth were developed and presented. And then finally is the tailoring of the experience. HCPs are increasingly used to receiving a tailored experience. Pharma has a great understanding of the HCPs, their preferences, their interests, their engagement, and it's incredibly important from an ROI perspective to drive that tailoring through into Congress as well, because they expect to see it. They expect the follow-up, even at the booth, to be connected to other experiences in other channels. Right now, it's very disconnected, but make it connected. It becomes a part of your overall HCP engagement strategy, and leading to better results, because we all see the research around personalized content leading to better outcomes. But in turn, it's got some additional complexity, right? When it comes to structuring and setting up the content. We talked earlier about it's difficult enough to get one presentation out, let alone a presentation that automatically tailors to, I don't know, 20, 25 different HCP profiles or personas.
Yeah, exactly. And this is all in our hands, because it all depends upon technology. That means, like, even we are very disconnected in this Congress experience, and we are seeking this sustainability. We cannot rely on random applications provided us, right? So that we are tracking, or we can identify, or we cannot. This is the experience which costs money, costs our time and our attention. We must rely and we must build the sustainability. And what we are talking about right now, we not be just building this sustainability, like using our own technology and approach. Like, we have the technology for build the sustainable content, to personalize it and to publish it real time to the Congress application. Like, Jan is running the congresses and can really provide this experience from the Congress technology. We need to link it to the business. So this is the major thing what we need to do. And just imagining the predefined KPIs, what we're talking right now, like, it's not enough, right? Because we even if we know that we are tracking this and this activity, not obviously the coffee breaks and the cups of coffee, we need to understand that it is tailored for this exact physician, who will be in our booth at a certain time. And today technology is so robust that we can not only send the message which is personalized, our application can have already the slides and the scientific information about the product, which is interesting particularly for this persona. And also, like, about the equipment and the booth experience. So having infographics, even making it on the touch screen and taking the interactions of every interaction which is happening on this screen, will help us to provide the quality follow-up feedback, and which we do not forget, because our one of the difficulty after the Congress, the follow-up might be timely, might be not. It could be not exactly upon the topic which was discussed at the booth. And these small things matter. They are very, very important. So we need exactly to know the topic of this follow-up and to capture precisely what the conversation was about. And all the technology and people must be focused, like our team working on this Congress must be focused to give the exact information which is required for this exact person. This is that important. And that's why this sustainability and the connectivity, like we cannot rely on non-integrated, disconnected, silos technology. We cannot rely on this. We need really build the sustainable experience, omni-channel experience, content experience, and that will bring success to our congresses.
I feel this is very important questions that we discussed, and especially we see a feedback from people because everyone's struggling from some challenges and everyone's struggling to measure to metrics, and especially about the cost reduction in Congress participation. Everyone wants to talk about cost. Everyone, of course, it's a high on the agenda for any company, especially who participate in congresses. So Nataliya, please, from your experience, how we developing commercial strategies, what are some of the most effective ways to reduce cost without compromising on engagement and impact? Please share with us.
I think I have plenty of examples of how to reduce the cost, but my honest opinion, we shouldn't reduce the cost of congresses on the sponsorship part or on the travel part, because this is the part where we cannot actually reduce cost. We have tried, you remember the times when the COVID was at its most peak. So when we used congresses, virtual congresses only, congresses as Netflix experience, the other congresses which is not human to human, this is significantly lower cost, if we compare to nowadays, but it will not bring the experience we have with the real-time interaction. So where else we can see some benefits? This is exactly what we have been discussing with Jan before. This is in quality, quantity of the content, real-time content, shareable content, the content which is helping us to engage, but it is so much was created in the past. It's not like the fresh one which every time is created from scratch, I would say. We have so many nice great messages which are working, because this is our audience, this is our people, the HCPs with whom we are talking through other channels than congresses, and taking the sustainable experience we want to bring with Congress as well. So my message would be, we need to inherit from what we have built. So we need to reuse, and we need to make sure like these micro messages, micro content, these small videos, these nice 3D reels, this nice booth experience is born from our best experience in the past, which we have built for other channels as well. So it helps us to be more confident. It helps us to not lose the heritage we have and we already built. We can redesign, we can use a lot of technology to make sure it is interactive. There are new KPIs on board, but we shouldn't build every time from scratch, because it is very much disconnecting us from what we have built before and what messaging we are building through other channels. So that's why it is not only building the experience which our audience is looking for, it is also saving money. Also, we can use a lot of other technology, like Evisart as an example, for translation. So to make sure like we are not translating from scratch. So we do have the automated translation as a part of it. We do have the inbuilt mechanism to make sure like we deliver this automated in non-expensive way. Our company supports each year many congresses for our customers. How is it happening? So first of all, we are not developing content on the go in the last minute. So because this is a nightmare, this is what we want to avoid. But what we actually do, we actually supervise and overview this experience where we need personalize on go. So because the technology today allows us to have the dynamic flow of our conversation, which can be pre-built, and we are building it, and we build the algorithms which are allowing our presentations on the booth to be dynamically chosen by each individual HCP and rebuild on the go, and we are receiving this flow as is to the booth delivered. So our technical specialists usually overview all of these experiences and working together closely with the organizers. But I think more and more, this is becoming not necessary, because this real-time experience is working through the connection and through the integration of the platforms. And this what is today a must, to have a robust system for your content management connected with the robust system for your congress management. This is what will be working and what will be saving, the biggest save. Jan, are you agreeing
Yeah,
with that?
absolutely, completely agree. You know, you mentioned it already. It's about stop reinventing the wheel, and from our perspective, don't keep developing the booth apps and the kiosks from scratch every single time, and truly take a platform approach to Congress. And it won't surprise you that's what we do as an organization at Tangent 90. But that platform really gives that consistency in terms of tracking, in terms of content deployment, HCP identification, consent capture, task and preference capture, and GDPR compliance. And you'll note that I'm not talking about content here. I'm not talking about the types of experiences, but I'm really talking about the plumbing. So stop redoing the plumbing every single time and put your interactive and engaging content on top of that to make sure that it closes the loop. And that reduces effort, and that cost reduction can be reinvested in developing engaging content. Examples include CRM integration. Do it once and run it for every single congress. Master data management system integration. Data processing agreements. I have no idea how much time is spent on it, but it is significant on our side and on the customer side. Third-party agreement, TPAs. It needs to be done for every single congress. Every single congress, it's a few hours that it takes both parties to get it done. Similarly with data security. Do you really want to do the assessments for every single congress? And of course, Nataliya mentioned, standardize on your content approach. Make Congress a checkbox on the output that says, send this to my Congress app, and I'm done with it from a content development perspective. So really streamline that. That also allows you to standardize on training, because the same application effectively is being used. Then, of course, what is truly an aspect that can help with that cost reduction or reinvestment of that cost savings into better content is the cross-congress reporting. Imagine from congress to congress, you can see how your kiosk has performed. That gives you a clear indication of what content worked and what did not work and how it could be tweaked. Similarly with KPI consistency. And of course, the follow-up visibility across channels. That becomes clear by using a platform approach and repeatable. And of course, that leaves you to feed, or enables you rather, to feed all of that data back into your next best action approach, including the experience at Congress. And of course, you all know that using a platform typically comes with increasing value. New features are introduced. Importantly, customer enhancements. The customer feedback translates into enhancements, and we'd love to say that we know it all, but guess what? We get an awful lot of good suggestions from our customers using it in practice, and of course we feed those back and enhance the platform through this. So yeah, all in all, driving that ROI and providing you with an opportunity to reinvest any savings made, whilst on the flip side continually driving effectiveness.
One more note on this part. It's even more than just reinventing the wheel. Whenever we are creating the content strategy for the brand, and we are done with the channels, like digital channels and offline channels, we do have all the needed material. So it is very useful to have the library also synchronized with congresses, because whenever we are preparing some special engaging content for the congress specifically, and even the new vendor will be working and there will be a lot of other people engaged, we can never predict the interactions which are happening face-to-face live interactions in the congress. And this is reminding me my congresses, when you always go to certain library to get the material, to get the message, to make sure you can target this answer the particular visitor on the kiosk, and to make sure it is working and to follow up accordingly. So it is even more, it's just having a congress library to make sure like we are prepared to every type of question and to every interaction which will happen at the kiosk. It's also one of the ideas. I see we have questions.
Yes, we are. First of all, thank you to our speakers. I feel this agenda was so full, but in the same time, so interesting. Jan, Nataliya, thank you so much. But let's jump into our questions right away, because we discussed a lot. And Nataliya, you mentioned about the feedback, about engagement. So I feel this question is definitely for you. But Jan, please feel free, of course. How do you utilize feedback and engagement metrics to refine your strategy and achieve better business outcomes? Everyone wants to know how we can have a better business outcomes from webinars.
Webinars, but we're talking about congresses
I
here.
think it was meant
So
by Congress.
There is a small mistake, but there's a congresses, but webinars may be similar, but congresses. Yes. First of all, as we have been talking a lot today about the working with data, about the synchronization, and about predefining KPIs, and metrics which will be important to our business. So we do have different types of interactions. Jan and myself were talking about the interactions which are around the presentations, which are meetings where must be polls and surveys and the other interactions at kiosk. So we must have the predefined metrics for every interactions, which could be translated into the business KPIs. So we should understand what this particular question means for our business, for this particular touch of the screen and the choice of the topic or the message on the screen means for our business. So this helps us to translate it into the business outcomes and to tailor our stories into the next congresses. And of course, we can use webinars, emails, other channels to follow up, to make sure like we are having follow-ups, we are having feedbacks, and we are really engaging before and after the Congress. Jan, do you want to add to this?
No, I think you've answered that beautifully.
Thank you.
But Jan, I have a question for you, the next one. Okay, so next is for you. So what's your general Congress observation can you share? So maybe you just can share your experience, or maybe your latest experience, actually.
Sure.
Do you
Yeah,
can you
happy to
share?
share. I also wanted to pick up on a comment that was made about 25 personas, and absolutely that is an awful lot. It was sort of an
From
extreme
here.
example, but what I wanted to highlight there is the use of personas is often treated as, oh, we got to deliver an entire content path for every single persona or every single characteristics, but that doesn't need to apply. Content could have the tiniest, smallest tweaks to it to align with those personas or individuals. Way too often, from my perspective at least, it is made too complex by going down these predefined paths rather than thinking about an individual slide based on these different types of characteristics. What might I want to share or change on that slide? But just wanted to follow up on that point because it was an extreme number, but it's being done, but it's difficult to maintain, but not if you limit it to very small tweaks to the content. So in terms of your question about Congress experience, I'd first say, do you want the good, the bad, or the ugly? I don't know if anyone has seen the film. There's lots of really good stuff, and amazing booths I've seen, very well designed kiosks as well. I saw one recently which was sort of vertical and sort of life size, really with an extremely clear menu to navigate through, which is really good. So there's lots of effort going into it with lots of amazing experiences and information provisioning for HCPs. But if I look at the sort of the bad and the ugly side, still an awful lot of focus on company name visibility. And I know it's important, but it's not what draws the HCP to have an engagement. It's the science, it's the latest development, it's the drugs that you have as a pharma industry. They want to engage on, not necessarily just the company name. So that big focus is not really required. But then going towards the ugly, I mean, Windows update screens instead of a looping presentation, where Windows has kicked in and said, oh, I'm updating your operating system. Just wait half an hour and I'll be back once I've finished the update. The number of times I've seen that at Congress is mind-boggling. At least 3 to 4 at any point in time at a Congress. Kiosks with screen brightness practically turned down to 0. Walking past it thinking, is that actually on or not? And really basic things that are not done in the right way. Similarly with looping presentations that have come to an end because someone hit a button somewhere and it's just stuck on one slide. So there's lots of good aspects I see happening. But many very practical aspects could be so easily addressed by using the right approach. One thing, and I'd love comments on this, I see little proactive engagement. Now, I know on a booth in most countries, the interactions are limited to the people who are on the booth. The moment they step into the corridor, they can't be talking to them. But very little effort is made to draw people into the booth to start a conversation. Nataliya and I go to commercial congresses in the software and technology space, and the moment someone walks past the booth, the team will try and make eye contact and try and engage with them, whether the person wants to or not. I'm not saying it should go as far as that, but there's a real opportunity, I feel, to engage more. And I've talked to many people about that, and they're experiencing the same. Doctors aren't necessarily very proactive to engage, but nor are the people on the booth from general observations from the congresses I've been to and other people have been to.
Yeah, I have a very nice comment in our chat from Stefan. It is not the goal to deliver the content, right? The goal is to drive behavioral conversion, aiming for getting information across will fall short. So this is absolutely brilliant. Thank you to get into this. I do agree, and we have been trying today to say it's really too less to just deliver the content. Content must be creative, interactive, action oriented. So it must work. It must be effective. It must invite to engage and to act. So there must be case studies, interactive infographics, virtual simulations. So we must also personalize at every step. So we must use a wizard, CRM experience. We must have a Congress experience, every experience available to us from the technology perspective to personalize the how, when, and for whom. And then all the omni-channel tools we are using and we were talking about must work for us, that we have these behavioristic metrics which we are talking about. And the conversion is also depends on the decision making process. How do we understand HCP's decision making process? So it will affect how we build our interactive content, how we make it engaging, how we make our performance at kiosk engaging enough to trigger the interest to our studies, to trigger the dialogue, and to measure it, and to get it working into the next interactions. Jan, it's a nice topic. Do you want to add?
Yeah,
And we see a comment from Stefan again.
It's absolutely key to drive the right, to have the right conversation, but supported by the content that is pertinent to that conversation. And interestingly, we recently supported a congress, and to that point, some 900 pieces of content were shared on request of the HCP on the back of the dialogue, leading to capturing about 600 consents just over a couple of days. And that shows that, linking the conversation, the dialogue, with content that is of value to the physician is a good approach to take. But and in terms of your comments, Stefan, about other congresses, absolutely. The aim is not to necessarily have the deliver the content and have the dialogue. The dialogue in itself needs to be of value to the physician. However, it needs to be started, and it's that aspect I'm seeing sometimes not happening. Just that starting point.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, our audience, to questions. I know there's still some questions, but we're running a bit of time. But we promise to answer you all in questions. And of course, thank you, our speakers, to join in our conversation and our discussion. It's not finished, because you can continue this conversation with Nataliya, with Jan. Please follow these links, and you will reach us, text us, follow us on social media, let us know your feedback, because we would love to hear from you. Also, if you feel that there's still requirement to talk about half an hour about the challenges, please let us know. We would like to do it. We also would like to give you more and more content, because we really driven by showing more and more from it. And also, I am grateful all for your comments. You are amazing audience, and we are happy to see you on every webinar. And just like for a little disclaimer, we have a webinar with Nestle this month. So please follow Viseven and join us for this exciting session where we will talk about a global to local approach. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks.